Welcome to Strictly Speaking. I'm Bimbo OLOYEDE. You're a broadcast journalist, you're a trainer, you handle live events, and you retired as the Assistant Director Programs, FRCN. As you were rising through the ranks, there were certain trainings, there were certain information and knowledge that was made available to you. The colleagues that are working today, are they still exposed to that same information?
Back then we had supervisors who were firm, who were knowledgeable, who were worth emulating. They did what they preached. We had a lot of respect and we were in awe of quite a number of them. Mm-hmm. And so it made it easy for us to want to aspire to be like them. Mm. And then so everything we did, we knew we were being evaluated, measured, and we tried to do the right things in their eyes. Mm. And in doing that, we also evolved, you know. I think the terrain is different. Haven't been a controller presentation for years, manager programs with the FRCN. I worked with a lot of anchors who just couldn't be bothered about the fine details and who just wanted to say something on air. All they wanted and still want right now is just to be popular.
Just to be on air.
The shortcuts to fame. You have a pretty face, you have a nice voice, sometimes you do actually have the voice. And then they have followership on social media and they think that's what it takes to be a voice or, you know, a face in the industry. It's very different now. And then we have supervisors these sort of people who've moved on to become supervisors, and you can't give what you don't have.
So they didn't grow up with the culture.
No.
And so
culture missing.
Obviously they can't sustain it.
Right.
So what would you say then to people who say, well, after all, English is not even our first language. So why do we need to bother? Why do we have to make such a fuss?
If you want to be taken seriously, and you don't want to take your audience for granted, it's a total package. You can't afford to say grammar is not your, English is not your native language, so you can afford to say it or speak it anyhow. That is taking your audience for granted, whether you're a salesman or you're a public speaker or you're whatever it is you're doing with a large, you know, audience or a group of people. Any person can come up and speak, but if you have to be in the spoken word industry, you must invest in how to speak proper English.
Do you think that we would be better off actually sticking to our various indigenous languages? Would there be more acceptance?
No, I don't think so. Look at Nigeria, we have more than 500 languages. Yeah. Pretty much the same thing for the rest of Africa. You can't go to Kenya now or go to Uganda or Zambia. Well, Zambia is still English speaking. All the three countries are English speaking, but we can't afford to major on our mother tongues at international fora. No.
The vowel sounds and consonant sounds of English are so completely different from all the other sounds with all the other languages that it's really not surprising that we find it difficult to make the transition from indigenous languages to the English language. So it's not really our fault, is it? Because the nitty-gritty, the details are different.
Yeah, they're different, but there are similarities in our sound system with the English language, and this is what I find quite fascinating. And I teach from that perspective. I teach people from their indigenous language sound system. I like to tell the Igbo man, you don't have to say egg, leg, bed, you know, because...
Said, read.
My brother, you can't be saying that because you actually have a in the Igbo language. It's like the Yoruba man or Yoruba woman. We have words like ahere, ahamo. So you shouldn't struggle with words like house, home, history,
Yes.
because they're all aspirated. So it then baffles me when you hear, I'm going to my house.
Well, that is purely environmental because people
It
have
is.
grown up listening to, words like that, pronounced that way, house. Oh,
Like, yeah.
yes.
I prefer that we approached even the English language, speaking the English language and learning the sound system from our own indigenous languages. So then we retain the pride and then we still speak the English language like a second language speaker that we are.
So, if you look at this whole situation now, we have some idea about why it is that broadcasters have a few issues, and we have some ideas also about why sounds are mixed up. Then what is the way forward?
Well, the way forward is anything that you think is worth your while, you invest in it. You want to be a public speaker, you invest in how to speak properly, except you want to start addressing your audience in your mother tongue, which is quite fantastic. Those who advocate for
Indigenous languages
will be thrilled. However, you cannot go to Gombe or go to Omahia to speak your mother tongue to the crowd there because it will not be intelligible to them. So we need to invest. And you don't have to be a broadcaster to invest in how you speak. For you to be taken seriously as a CEO, I have so many things to say.
I know.
I remember somebody
our time
sending to
is really short. Yes. So, okay. So, I want to thank you, Funke, for taking time to have this conversation with me. I want to take away a couple of things from what you've said. One being that it is important for people to invest in themselves, to improve the way they speak. And the second one is that we should try to make sure within the broadcast industry that there are role models for our younger colleagues to try to emulate, just as we had in our time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful for the time you spent with me.
I should come back.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
Thank you so much for having me.